Welcome to Strait Forward, live on day 3 of the AI Plus Expo. Strait Forward is a podcast about Taiwan, the island at the center of technological innovation and the global fight for democracy. I'm Channing Lee.
And I'm Libby Lange. And we are so happy on the final day of the Expo, our first recording of the day, to be here with Audrey Tang.
Again.
Yes,
again.
For those of you who have listened to Strait Forward before, you may have heard her episode where we previously talked about her time as digital minister and Taiwan's digital resilience. And we're so happy she could rejoin us here at Expo.
Yeah, and we have a lot to ask you today about your experience at the Expo and everything you've been up to. And we figured, since Audrey was so generous to come and join us at the Expo, we definitely wanted to catch her on the media stage as well.
Yes, the coffee was amazing.
Oh, good to hear that.
That was a highlight.
And the hackathon.
Oh, amazing. So in addition to the coffee and in addition to the hackathon, Audrey, what was your favorite part of the Expo over the last 3 days?
The drone arena. I think it's very visceral, makes real what we read in the newspapers, Operation Spiderweb from Ukraine and all that. And also I like how the people around the drone arena really invites everyone in, right? On the experience of remote controlling, explaining how swarms work and things like that. So I think it's a really very tangible thing that puts the AI co-living with people in real perspective.
Yeah. And did you see AI popping up anywhere here that maybe you didn't expect, something unexpected and creative?
Yeah, definitely. So, for example, the Boston Dynamic robotic dog, I think is a great highlight. People really like interacting with it. And I think what people now imagine embodied AI is exactly like that. It's more of a co-domestication. Instead of just thinking them as tools, we're now thinking of them sometimes as partners, as companions, and so on. I was just in Japan for the Sushi Tech, and they have a lot of that going around. They have a entire city, the Takanawa Gateway City, that have this kind of slow-moving robots that coexist with people.
And yeah, you can always tell where the robot is on the floor because there's just a small crowd of people following it because they want to see robots in action.
Right, exactly. And I think one of the highlight is how people are now seeing those robots as not something happening to us, but rather how we can steer them together. So we see people actively brainstorming what this can play a role in industries, in their households, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting, and I'm glad you got to see that. For anyone at the Expo today, definitely check out the different robot dogs walking around. It's just really different to see them in person. So Audrey, we want to ask you how you've been spending your time as cyber ambassador now, right? Previously, we spoke about your time as digital minister, but we're wondering now in your new role, what's different from leading a ministry. Now you're able to go around the world and spread the message about everything that you've been doing in Taiwan. Are there some new perspectives about freedom, democracy, or just digital diplomacy that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, definitely. I was, since 2016, essentially both digital minister, but also digital diplomat for this kind of very new kind of diplomacy that tackles the shared problems facing our world. 10 years ago, it may be addictive social media or Uber, and then, the pandemic and the infodemic, polarization, isolation, and so on. So for the past year, I get to really focus and to basically, I went to, I think, more than 30 countries.
Oh, wow.
On average, changing time zone every 4 days.
Gosh, okay.
And still maintain 8-hour sleep.
That's really impressive.
That may be your most impressive achievement.
That is really impressive, actually.
Competitive sleeping, that's my thing. And so what used to be very abstract conversations over 16:9 Zoom screens is now very much embodied and situated in where people are. And so the two takeaways, I would say, one is that people around the world are collectively very tired of peak polarization. People are really ready to move on from polarization and isolation and so on. They just need to know how. And the Taiwanese playbook of how we overcame decades of polarization and a low trust that we talked about in the previous episode, from 9% of approval rate in 2014 to 2020 over 70%, this rebuilding of fabric of trust. I think that is a message that really resonates. The other thing is that I think people are looking looking at AI not as something that will happen in the future, but rather something that we must integrate in our life and work like right now. And so this idea of a super intelligent vertical takeoff AI, which is very remote and leave everyone behind, is now giving way to the horizontal way of AI, of diffusion, open models, small models that run locally, and so on, so that you can have both the privacy and security benefits, but also benefit from the open ecosystem of innovation. That's what we're also seeing for the past year. And Taiwan, because we're the island that made mainframes into personal computers, this kind of personal computing for the AI era, I think is also a message that resonates.
And as you're traveling and seeing that horizontal diffusion, are you seeing any kind of interesting partnerships or alliances emerging maybe between countries that people wouldn't expect?
Yeah, definitely. And this is when I talk about ROOST, right? So for context, ROOST is the robust open online safety tools that I think SASP, right, invested.
Yes, we also were part of this project.
But it's not just SASP. It is also the online service providers. Think Blue Sky or Roblox or Discord and so on. And all of them have to solve essentially the same problem, which is keeping, child sexual abuse materials and other abuses online off their communities. But previously, they rely on centralized way to resolve that, send images, hashes into what's called Microsoft Photo DNA or other centralized services. The problem with that is that the threat is now decentralized. It used to be that only organized crime can produce such harmful content, but now anyone with a laptop can synthetically generate such content with no trace, right? So because of that, any centralized way to monitor, to counter against that, not only creates surveillance risk, but just isn't very effective. And so ROOST is about switching to a standard-based, decentralized defense so that each of those small or medium operators can train their local models with text, so not images. They turn those images into text, so it's legal to hold on to, and it's not personally identifying. And then they share those new threat indicators across all the different service providers. So what it does is that it proves that there's actually a non-dual use of open source AI. Previously, like 2 years ago, there's a fight in Bletchley Park between the people who believe in open source and diffusion and steerable AI versus people who think about safety and about extinction risk and things like that. There was a schism. But now, when I was in Paris for the Paris AI Summit, right, to my right was Eric Schmidt, to my left was Jan LeCun of open source fame, and it's like this uncommon ground that brings them together and invest together and launch this essentially decentralized democratic defense that people can now see open source actually contributes to security, something the cybersecurity people already know, but now it's getting much more mainstream.
And what do you think is next for ROOST? Like, what would it look like for a project like ROOST to be successful?
Yeah, I think the ROOST structure is a nonprofit organization that nevertheless deliver professional services. I think that is a very nice way to structure this kind of joint effort. So think Signal or Proton or Wikipedia, basically providing infrastructure that enable innovations to thrive and adapt because it's open source to each jurisdiction's needs, so that we can keep very strong encryption, very good innovation, not fighting with each other, but really working with each other. So I think, to me, success looks like if people generally feel that we don't need a centralized surveillance state or surveillance capitalist in order to keep the online space safe. Like people default think open source is safer. I think this is a very good thing. And the other thing is that if the people around the world see more innovation from the small and medium social media, because they don't then have to maintain a huge team just for trust and safety and moderation and things like that. They can tap into this shared infrastructure, and then we can see much more people porting their social graph from the largest social media into those smaller ones, but keeping their connections and content and friends and followers and so on, so that people have to basically compete in order to retain their audience instead of locking them in.
Wow, that's so neat. And thanks for introducing ROOST to our audience for those who might not have heard about it. I know the website for that is actually pretty cool, so check that out. And I was really, I was really amazed at how many partners that you brought in for that, or you and everybody involved brought in for that, obviously, including SCSP, but around the world. I'm curious, of course, as your role as a cyber diplomat, as an ambassador, we're curious to ask you if there are other partnerships that have come up in different parts of the world that you might not have expected unexpected. I think for Taiwan especially, right, diplomacy, as we've talked with Jiao about a few days ago, is a little bit more difficult given that Taiwan only has 12 allies that recognize, or countries that recognize Taiwan as a country. So yeah, are there some new partnerships that have formed through this cyber digital or ROOST kind of lens that you have found unexpected in different parts of the world, and maybe even particularly in the global south or countries with which Taiwan hasn't engaged with in the past? If you can talk a little bit about that.
I really like the arrangement around the Paris AI Summit. I was both in Paris and also in Munich. And ROOST is part of Current AI, which is a flagship project that launched from the Paris Summit. It includes, for example, Kenya, Nigeria, Morocco from the African continent, India, Chile, and Finland, Slovenia, and so on. So I think the great thing about my current role, Cyber Ambassador at Large, is that I'm both plenipotent in the sense that I can enter into treaties, but also I'm unsalaried, which means that in multilateral situations, I'm actually just a Oxford Fellow or someone from from civil society.
Yeah.
Right. So it's easier for me to enter the door. But once I'm in the door, I'm also working with my counterparts, the other cyber ambassadors of the world. So I think that brings a lot of like unlikely collisions. People who in traditional track one would be hard pressed to enter into like bilateral with Taiwan. But now with collisions like Current AI, essentially we're just sharing open source tools, shared public infrastructure. And that is when I was Minister of Digital Affairs, why we put the digital ministry in the parliament in the transportation committee. So we're not in science or education or economy or because we do cybersecurity, interior and so on. We're not in those obvious committees. We're in transportation because that committee's MP know of all the different committees that one single train station doesn't do anything. One single airport doesn't do anything. You have to invest in like very long-term thinking, like 10-year thinking. And success is not like how much toll you collect from a highway, but rather how much off-ramps and on-ramps you build and how many new services gets built on top of this infrastructure. So this has a very like civic infrastructure feel to our digital infrastructure. And because of that, we get to reuse. For example, the Dia super app from Estonia is a great inspiration. And then we also contribute back, for example, our wallet for decentralized credentials that lets people identify they're over 16 years old without disclosing anything else and without the state knowing anything about this transaction. So it's a thoroughly privacy-preserving way to basically solve the bot or not question online for anti-scam in a way that is privacy-preserving. And so we're going to contribute that also as open source, and so which also makes interoperability testing easier. And also because we changed our Digital Signature Act, we don't need bilateral treaties anymore. We just need technical interoperability. So this way of contributing into the commons and for people to pull them from the commons, I think is a very good way to bypass the kind of diplomatic hurdle that Taiwan faces if we're engaging in track one.
Yeah, and I know that identity verification is something that's really challenging all over the world, especially with the new AI tools that are coming out. And so are you seeing interest from other countries in adopting that technology from Taiwan?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm flying tonight to California.
Oh my God, okay, more flights.
My home state.
Yes. And I'm pre-adjusted to the jet lag, so I should be good. And we're working with the Office of Data Innovation there, with the governance team on a series of hackathons. So they already had hackathons on open credentials system, the mobile driver licenses that you can hold as a wallet app on your phone, or it works existing wallets like the Apple one and the Android one, and into interoperable QR codes and NFCs and so on. So the idea is that if you want to prove in California that you can drive or things like that, you can take a Taiwanese credential, but it will just automatically interoperate. And this hackathon that I'm going into takes this to another level. It's also about bringing the Taiwanese idea of digital democracy, like polling people not individually, but in groups, and using AI to synthesize their feelings, to do sense making. And the California now launched the same structure called Engaged California. The pilot on wildfire prevention and recovery is very successful, like thousands and thousands sign up, a conversion rate of 25%, which is
Wow.
unheard of.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
1 in 4 people receiving a cold email just clicked and shared their ideas about Wi-Fi recovery. And so now they're making it, again, a civic infrastructure so that every other topic can also be talked about in California.
Wow.
It's
I know
open
that's,
source too.
that's something we talked about in our last episode with you. And it's kind of amazing to see it actually happening on the ground in other places too.
That's
like
right.
Cross-pollinating.
So it's not just scaling up, reaching like higher and higher level of government as we do in Taiwan with presidential hackathon. It's now scaling across many different jurisdictions.
I was curious, how did that project with California come to be? I mean, I could guess why you might want to work with that state. Is this, or maybe the better question is this a model that you're going to try to replicate in either other U.S. states, because I know that Taiwan has a lot of good relationships with different states in the United States, or maybe around the world?
Yeah, I mean, the off-ramp, on-ramp social media drag and drop thing was first passed in Utah here, which is a very interesting state with a lot of like very forward-looking bills. For example, their digital identity bill is also about citizens owning their identity without waiting for any single state or any company to control the identity. So it's very portable and also very decentralized, right? So, and to your question, I started working with the California team, I think 2 years ago during the Summit for Democracy. I went there and they have this issue of, teenage use of social media, especially in classrooms.
I think everyone has that problem. Yes, teenage use of social media.
Yes. I mean, I turn my phone grayscale, so I don't have that problem because reality is more vivid than my phone.
That's an interesting tip for life.
Right. So I'm not addicted. In Taiwan, in classrooms, we share our screens. So with larger laptops or with touch screens, but larger tablets, so that the students associate screens with something that you share with people. Again, group intelligence, not individual intelligence. And so I think when people grow up this way, they associate internet technologies with things that they can co-create instead of something that they just consume. So this is part of the literacy to competency shift in our curriculum. And so in California, there's, as you know, state law about that going on, but it's a classic case of something about them without them, because the young people certainly was not consulted, and they certainly did not vote, the legislators, because they're too young to vote. So the idea of Gavin and his first partner, Jennifer, was that we need to actually consult the young people and their parents, and we can offer pre-commitments to whatever rule that they agree are sensible. And so we've been planning that for quite a while. And just as we're about to launch, the wildfire happened. So we pivoted the infrastructure from talking about social media teenage use to wildfire recovery, prevention, like mental health centers for community recovery, engaging with Department of Angels. And that takes a kind of very hyperlocal sense. And one thing I like about group intelligence is that when you individually poll people, they're like very polarized. They're like IMBY or NIMBY. But in groups of 10 and so on, when people can check with each other's resonance, actually everybody are like MIMBY, like maybe in my backyard. If you do this, then I do this, right? And so it surfaces much better agreements, and you can actually see that most of those ideas on Engaged California around wildfire have more than 85% of agreement, regardless of which place, which ideologies, which age groups, and so on that they belong to. So in a sense, I think polarization is just a hallucination. If you poll people in groups, you see beyond polarization.
Yeah, well, thanks, I guess, on behalf of our home state for helping us think through all these wildfire and tech issues.
Yeah, and I know last time that we talked to you, we talked quite a bit about AI and where you see AI going, but also, as we all know, AI is changing. It feels day to day, hour to hour. There are always new capabilities coming out. And so I guess I just wanted to get kind of a temperature check from you as we're talking about things, the horizon for AGI and when that's coming and what that will mean for all of us. How are you feeling about that right now?
Yeah. So I used to say that AI to me means assistive intelligence.
I remember that, yeah, like glasses.
Like glasses.
Yeah.
And now when we look at the more general capabilities, AGI to me means augmented group intelligence. So like glasses, but for groups, so that we
like
can...
we're all sharing the same glasses?
Same lens.
Right, exactly,
Gotcha. Okay.
exactly, like mind melting, right?
Like Libby and me.
But actually, the brain-computer interfaces are now really good. Like without intrusive devices, just with EEG alone, it can like narrate together, and so the kind of brain wave link thing is real now. And we're also seeing the augmented group intelligence being deployed on a much larger scale than previously. When we last recorded, there's still a sense of Taiwanese exceptionalism, right? Like Taiwan is the only polity with more than 10 million that tried this broad listening at scale using AI, and every other place are like a city, Bowling Green in Kentucky, Warren County, which is like very nice, but it's not tens of millions of people. And now it's not just California, but rather in Tokyo and indeed all of Japan. I was just in Sushi Tech a couple months ago, and what they reported is that a year ago, the idea of using AI for broad listening was very niche. It was just one single person, Takahiro Ano, 33 years old, machine learning engineer, who read my book, Plurality, that I co-wrote with 60 other people, and decided to run for governor of Tokyo 1 month before the election.
What an origin story.
Right.
Very cool.
And he had no partisan support. And they're really like nobody feel that he has a platform. And so he just crowdsourced the platform. And so anyone can just hashtag Tokyo AI to join his platform. And senior people can call into a line and have a conversation with a voice clone of Takahiro
Very
Ano.
inclusive.
And there's also a 24/7 VTuber channel that as he updates his platform, you can literally see his VTuber avatar announcing those revisions. And so I think a week or so before the election, his crowdsourced platform was independently ranked as the top rated platform, better even than Koike-san's. Of course, Koike-san still won this third term, but she was so impressed that she tapped Takahiro Ano to GovTech Tokyo to do broad listening with all of Tokyo people and basically raised this idea of scaling out the participation from initially, citizen assembly, maybe hundreds of people, to millions of people, to the mainstream view in Japan. So when I visited this time, all the three parties, the ruling party, the two largest opposition, are saying we're now doing broad listening and we're doubling down on not just listening from people, but also closing the feedback loop with AI. So if we, for example, agree to pass some law or to make some key changes, we can actually back propagate and let the individuals that propose those ideas know exactly how did they contribute to the lawmaking. So it's not just about, taking sides or, being outvoted or every 4 years, 3 bits of information uploaded in form of a voting booth, but rather a real-time continuous democracy using augmented group intelligence.
Okay. That's a new term for our Audrey dictionary.
That's right.
No, I'm really glad you're sharing this. And I feel like, I mean, we love talking to you because you really demonstrate really what that hashtag, Taiwan can help, can do, right? Because yes, it's important for us to be talking about Taiwan and what's going on in Taiwan itself. But, for you to be able to take the tools that you've learned as a nation, as an island, and bring them all around and really have this impact. I think that's really, really neat. And it really is that kind of not just diplomacy in action, but I guess action in action, if you will.
Action in action. I like that.
So I really like that. And I hope our audience is learning from that as well. I don't know, what's next, right? As cyber diplomat, you obviously have a few years in your term. Are there new cyber projects that you're looking forward to, that involve Taiwan and other countries? I know you mentioned a couple coming down the pipeline, but yeah, what are you looking forward to?
Right. So the broad listening stuff and also the wallet. I think the decentralized wallet is really key because as I mentioned yesterday on stage, the surveillance state apparatus was billing that as necessary to solve the problem of malicious AI swarms online. So it's not the drone swarms that we tangibly feel, but there's really now more and more astroturfing going on with essentially thousands of AI fake accounts that now very convincingly portray a life history of real seeming interactions. And then, so they don't rely on disinformation anymore or really anything that is out of ordinary. You just feel that, there's real grassroots support for this presidential candidates. It's just, entertainment videos and so on, right? As we have seen, Georgia and Romania and many other places. There's really a concerted effort now from the civil society, especially around Europe, to counter against these things. But what we must do is that we must not install a surveillance state apparatus just in name of countering those AI swarms online. We need to switch to a decentralized wallet apparatus so that people can prove that they're not a bot, but they don't need to disclose anything else, so there's no privacy fallouts. And the infrastructure need to be maintained by the civil society, by tools like ROOST, without being concentrated in one state entity.
Okay, well, hopefully next time we talk, that has scaled the same way a lot of the things we talked about last time are looking today.
That's right.
But I know we wanted to close out, as we always do, with more of a fun question. For those of you who've listened before, we like to ask our guests to recommend something from Taiwan, just to help people get to know it better. And last time we talked to you, you mentioned Taiwan's Gold Card program and recommending people check that out. So,
and actually, since then, I think I saw the news, like 13,000 people have registered for a Gold Card. So that's really impressive.
We're counting that as our KPI.
Must have been because they heard it here first here on Strait Forward.
Definitely us. But we wanted to switch it up a little this time and ask you something different. So if Taiwan had an official emoji, what would it be and why?
Oh, it's already in the Unicode emoji repertoire. It's the bubble tea.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Of course.
Yeah, you can literally type bubble tea and see a bubble tea emoji. I mean, bubble tea, I think, to me, epitomizes open innovation because there's no patent. And you can mix any kind of bubble, like black or white tapioca, doesn't matter. You can even do rooibos if you like. so it's the recipe is infinitely open. And because of there's no patents, people can experiment in like home cooking, which is like vibe coding. You know, if you like to make an app, you can just home cook that into existence. And it's also extremely delicious. So to me, you know, life without bubble tea, just like a world without Taiwan, is unimaginable.
I love that. Okay, so bubble tea is an open source beverage.
Yeah, I actually haven't really thought about the innovative part of that. So I actually really, really appreciate that. And I know that we talked earlier before we gone on stage about how we wish there was bubble tea at the next expo.
Right, not just coffee. The coffee is very good, but I think bubble tea has a place.
Okay, so next year we'll sell it as we need this because it's a symbol of open innovation and people enjoy and it's delicious.
That's right. Add your own tapioca.
That's a really good idea. Okay, maybe you can come back next time and we can do this together.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, let's do that. I mean, Sushi Tech built itself as the AI Quantum and Food Conference. So I'm sure you can learn something from it.
So AI plus Expo plus Boba plus drinks and food and all the fun stuff.
Amazing.
Well, Audrey, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to the audience. We're really, really appreciative of you being here and being at the expo. We have a new feature actually for Strait Forward that we want to share with our audience. So Libby and I, of course, have been working on this for a while and bringing on awesome guests, but we actually want to hear from our audience. You know, we've been testing this. You know, we hope people are caring about the topics that we're bringing to you. I think you do. You know, you guys are here, so I hope so. But we are really curious to hear from you. What are some other topics you want us to cover? Do you have questions specifically for Libby and me that we can help answer? And if you have anything that you want to contribute to our show, please email us at straightforward@scsp.ai. That is straightforward@scsp.ai. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you and your feedback. Send us questions. Libby and I hope to answer some of them in future episodes. But otherwise, with that, thank you again.
Thank you so much,
Audrey, for joining us. And we look straight forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. Live long and prosper.